Hello and welcome to Ryan Watches a Movie. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hello.
We're also joined by Ryan Holes. Hey, Ryan. If this is your first time tuning in, Kevin and I are challenging ourselves to find movies Ryan likes in the hopes that we'll reach a coveted 10 out of 10. You can join in on the conversation by sending your movie suggestions for Ryan to podcast@filmpulse.net or by sending me a DM on Twitter at filmpulsenet. If you like the show, or even if you don't, please consider checking out the Frederick's Ataxia Research Alliance website at curefa.org. Now, this is a bit of a special show for a couple reasons. The first being that this is episode number 299. Kevin wanted me to say that this was 300, but I couldn't do it. Because I know if I said it was 300, I would forever be thinking that the numbering was off, and it would drive me insane. So it's episode 200. We're almost at 300 episodes of Ryan Watches a Movie, so I think that that's pretty damn incredible. The other thing is Ryan's going to be reviewing a new movie, relatively new, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. He went to the theater to see that. Kevin took him, so that's pretty exciting. But I think the most exciting thing of all is to reveal a secret that Kevin and I have been keeping from you, Ryan, all year.
You ready for secrets?
What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you should be excited. So, for those of you listening, we changed the format of Ryan Watches a Movie in 2019. So, before all the previous episodes, we were picking out bad movies that we thought Ryan would hate, and we were having fun listening to him just shit all over these movies and make fun of them and talk about how much he hated them. And for 2019, we decided to take a more positive spin on it. And our goal, as I said at the top of the show, was to find movies that he would like. Movies that we're looking for, like, not just like, but we're trying to find movies that he'll love. The goal is to find movies that he's never seen before, or maybe a movie that he hasn't seen in a really long time and sort of forgot about, and reintroduce him to that movie and give him some joy. So what we've been doing is throughout the year, we've been keeping a spreadsheet of all the movies that he liked, the score that he got when it came out, and we've been making donations to the Frederick's Ataxia Research Alliance for every movie that he scored an 8, a 9, or a 10. So, Ryan. Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Yeah, how you like that? Where's your enthusiasm now?
It should be through the roof. In 2019, Kevin and I have donated a total of $1,200 to the Frederick's Ataxia Research Alliance, and that is holy shit. And that is for the past 18 episodes. So in 2019, we did 18 episodes of this show, and anytime you scored an 8, 9, or 10, we donated accordingly. So if you scored a movie an 8, we each donated $50. If you scored it a 9, we each donated $75. And if you gave it a 10 out of 10, we donated $100, each of us.
So you guys were fucked there for a couple weeks. When I was giving out 10 at first.
You only gave out 110 the whole time. So you gave out 110, you gave out 3 8s, you gave out 4 9s. There was a 3-week span there where you gave out 9s. It was like 9, 9, 9. So for Upgrade, Hunt for the Wilder People, and Avengement, you gave all 3 of those 9s. So that was $75 a pop from both myself and Kevin.
So 150 total, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yep. Yeah. Again, it was 8 was 50, 9 was 75, 10 was 100, and that was from each of us. It was actually Kevin who came up with this idea, and then I really loved it right off the bat, and was like, you know what, I'll match what you're doing, and we just kind of developed it from there.
Mac.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now we're gonna have to come up with something.
Thanks for donating to the crippled children, because I'm an asshole. And I shit on movies.
You liked a lot of movies. In fact, all of the movies that we covered over the last 18 episodes you liked. There was only one that you didn't like, and that was Demolition Man, which you scored a 5. So the way that we've been ranking it is, if you give it a 6 or above, that's we consider that you liked it. So of the 18 movies that you reviewed, you gave an 8 or above to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 9 of them. So half of them you actually scored an 8 or above, which I think is I think that's successful on our part. Like I think we've been doing a pretty solid job of picking movies that you're gonna like.
That's 50%. So that's good numbers.
50% 8 and above too. Those aren't even like 7s and 6s and 7s. Those are 8 and above. So we're gonna have to come up with something else for 2020. So just so you know, it's not going to be the same thing. So don't be handing out 10s all over the place.
10 for everything.
I want to make you guys go broke. So I'm going to 10 everything.
You can try it this year, but it's not gonna work. We're already formulating some different ideas for 2020. So
yeah, another secret.
Yeah, another secret. So
you and your goddamn secrets.
We always got secrets.
Yeah,
for those of you listening, I would implore you to check out curefa.org and donate yourself. It's a really good cause. And let's get a cure. Let's get a cure going for this Frederick's ataxia bullshit. With that, I have a feeling, I think we can jump into this review here, but I have a feeling that things aren't going to go so good with this.
We can wrap up the donation.
You are correct.
Yeah. So just for some backstory, you're a pretty big Star Wars fan, I would say. You're not. I wouldn't put you in the camp of the like diehard crazy Star Wars fans, the toxic variety that have been sort of plaguing Twitter over the last couple of years. But I would say that you're a casual Star Wars fan like myself. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would agree. I like them more because the first 3, well, I guess technically the second 3, they're on TV almost every weekend. So I watch them here and there, and I understand almost everything, and I like them.
Okay.
The first 3. And I like the first new one.
Okay.
But the second and third, I've come on the conclusion that they just have to grow on me. I haven't seen them enough.
Got it. And so you're okay. So you're talking about the new trilogy, right? Not the prequel trilogy. You're talking about the new trilogy.
Yeah.
You gotta.
The prequels don't even count.
They're not even canon for you.
No.
They're not even in the Ryan Star Wars canon.
No.
I mean, honestly, they're not really in the canon for me either. Let's be real. Now, just
you guys can do that.
Well, I just did. Ryan did too. So there you go. Now, Kevin, you are also, I would say, you're a fan of the original 3 films. You just saw those. If you're a listener of the weekly podcast, it was a couple years ago now. I mean, what, 4 years ago or something?
Yeah. It's semi-recently.
Yeah, like maybe 4 years ago, you visited the original trilogy for the very first time, which was an interesting conversation. That those movies are so fresh for you, seeing them now as an adult. I often wonder how I would feel about them if I saw them now rather than when I was a kid. But
I also wonder that.
Either way, you liked all 3 of them for the most part, and you, if I remember correctly, you liked the first of the new trilogy, the J.J. Abrams one, right? Did you watch? Because I know the last time we spoke, you hadn't seen the second one, the Rian Johnson one.
No, still have not seen it.
So okay, so you skipped 8. You went from 7 straight to 9. Okay. I mean, did you like read anything to like prep yourself for it, or did you just go into 9 like?
I went into it. I figured I'll be able to piece it together. You know, I'll be able to figure it out.
Did you? Were you able?
So the only thing that I was a little bit confused on is I was like, okay, I guess Luke Skywalker is dead now.
Oh, yeah. Let's say spoilers for this before Kevin keeps blabbing about.
Because I asked Ryan about that, because I know that Luke Skywalker showed up in The Last Jedi. I know that he's like, on this rocky island drinking milk from some weird ass creature. But I didn't know that like something bigger happened.
Yeah.
He asked me about it, honestly. I've only seen the second new one time. So I didn't remember it at all.
Yeah, I mean he sacrifices himself basically in a weird way, sort of like an Obi-Wan Kenobi way, where he just like makes himself disappear. I don't know what.
Cool.
Sacrifices himself to the Force.
I talked to one of my friends about it right afterwards, and the same thing. They were explaining certain questions I had, and as they were explaining it, I was kind of remembering it. So I sort of remembered after the fact, but I can remember on the spot.
Okay. So I would say that all three of us are not Star Wars experts. I don't think that any of us are really steeped in the lore and the history. We don't read the novels and all of that stuff. So there's a certain amount of ignorance, I think, that we have going into this movie. But with that being said, Ryan, what were your initial thoughts on the Rise of Skywalker?
I was confused a lot. And it seemed like when they were at the writing room, they're like, oh, we can make this happen, but we have to bring somebody back to life. Like, it just seemed like one big excuse.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent. I feel like they were trying to wrap everything up. Before I continue, this is directed by J.J. Abrams as well, just as like the first one in the new trilogy. I think that they were trying to do the most fan servicey things that they could in this, and they were trying to wrap the entire anthology up in a satisfying way for fans, even though I think that happened at the expense of good storytelling and an actual like satisfying well, you know what, I think the conclusion was fine, other than like specifics, like the like what she says at the end and all of that. I still like the race Star Wars. I think that's hilarious. But I think a lot of what they did it felt lazy. Like, just to me, it felt lazy, like bringing back all these ghosts and stuff and doing all that.
It was bad, and it was just really corny too. Extremely corny. It was corny,
but I almost give it a pass just because if you watch the original trilogy, that's kind of corny too.
Yeah, that's true.
And there were too many fucking droids.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love how they just keep adding droids.
Yeah.
Every movie.
I almost, yeah, the new one that they added, I thought was like completely pointless to add that droid. It was, to me, adding that droid almost felt like, oh, we need to add something for merchandise. We need to add some. Yeah. We need to add a new droid because BB-8 was pretty damn popular when that was first introduced, and then in the Rian Johnson directed one, I think they're called porgs, the little creatures that were on the island with Luke. Like those things were pretty damn popular for a minute too. And for this one, it's like, oh, got to introduce something. So put in a new droid. But then, of course, they also did introduce what was his name? Damn it, I always forget his name. The little guy.
Oh, Frick. Was it Frick? Babu Frick or something like
Frick,
that?
yeah. Introduced him, and he was pretty awesome, I thought.
Yeah, I was
Dumb
a
piece of
fan.
shit.
I like that little guy.
Dumb piece of shit, Babu Frick.
Dumb.
He's so adorable. I mean, he's no Baby Yoda, but I mean, man, I thought he was pretty
Fucking,
cool.
oh, God. Fucking Baby Yoda. Jesus Christ.
What is Baby Yoda?
You guys grow up. My God.
Baby Yoda is actually 50 years old, and
Which makes it even weirder.
they never named the species. They never named the species of what Baby Yoda is, but they did. I think they did reveal its name at some.
Baby Yoda's love child.
I don't know. What are you reading some? Ryan's reading some Mandalorian fan fiction over here.
I think I read that on the internet when I googled Baby Yoda.
Maybe. Ryan, when I talked about Rise of Skywalker on the regular podcast, all I did the whole time was talk about the Mandalorian and how you should just watch the Mandalorian instead of going to see the Rise of Skywalker.
I totally agree with that. They should have been Rise of Skywalker like Hunger Games thing, where they split the last two and split the last one and the two, because way too much is crammed in there.
Yeah, I agree. They do cram a lot into this, for sure. It's funny because to me, The Rise of Skywalker feels more like a TV show than The Mandalorian. I would rather watch The Rise of Skywalker on Disney Plus and see The Mandalorian in theaters.
And I also wanted. I think they should have the same director for all three of them.
Well, they did for two of the three, and I thought Rian Johnson did a good job with episode 7. I mean, sorry, episode 8.
It just breaks up the story.
It does. I mean, if you remember when episode 7 came out, one of the big complaints was that it was too much like the original trilogy. It followed the same beats as the original movies. Like it felt like it was almost a remake of those, just with new characters. And then when 8 came out, people were like, whoa, this is way too different. Like, I am not on board with this. And then 9 came out, and it was back to the kind of fan servicey stuff. And I think the hardcore fans really enjoyed this, but I think the more casual fans like us and critics did not like it.
Yeah, I have a buddy of mine at work. He's really into Star Wars, big time. You know, when he came back after seeing it opening night, which I think his buddy got in line at like 1:00 in the afternoon to see it, and he said it was absolutely perfect. Like they couldn't have changed anything. Like it was absolutely perfect. They did everything correct.
Change everything.
Well, it bugged me that it felt like a lot of the development, like the character development and stuff like that they seemed to be doing in episode 8. They sort of just did away with a lot of that stuff for 9 because I think a lot of people complained. And then, of course, they introduced like the love story between Rey and Kylo Ren, and I thought,
I felt like that was the Force too.
Like that didn't
like
really.
It was just in there to fill time.
It seemed to me like she had a lot more chemistry with John Boyega's character, Finn. Like they seemed it seemed like there was something going on between the two of them, but then they never did develop that in any way. So I don't know. In fact, I thought a lot of the more compelling characters, like Oscar Isaac's character, Poe Dameron, I thought a lot of them took a back seat in this, and I found that to be a little disconcerting as well. And I like Daisy Ridley's character. I like Rey, but the thing that kind of bugged me was the overuse of the communication thing that she had with Kylo Ren's character, like how they're always going into each other's minds or whatever that was that they were doing.
That was something I asked Kevin about right afterwards. And they could see each other's thoughts. What we would need a movie. Like, why? Like, they can see each other do everything themselves. Why do they need a big movie to show that off?
I don't know.
Yeah, like I told Ryan, like if I had that ability, I'd be using it all the time. I mean, you can make someone go crazy pretty quickly.
Yeah, just stay there.
Fucking popping up all the time. It's like every 5 seconds.
Just checking in, seeing how you're doing. Where are you at? What are you doing?
just to slap you in the back of the head.
And it also made me kind of angry that everyone in that darkness is alive in real life, but everyone that is alive in real life died. And so,
what?
Like Luke and Han Solo, there was alive, man.
Yes, they are.
But it feels like they knew Leia was dead, but they had her in this as a full-time character.
Well,
because they were a big tribute to her.
Well, I don't know if that was planned. That could have been planned beforehand. Like, that might have been that character's story arc, and it just unfortunately so happened that Carrie Fisher passed away.
But do you really get the sense that they mapped out these 3 films ahead of time?
I don't.
Because I really there's no way that they did, because it makes no sense to introduce, a character like Rose Tico and then just be like, we're going to do absolutely nothing with her in the 3rd movie.
That's true. That's true.
There's no way.
I did laugh in the theater during that scene when she first shows up, and they were like, "Oh, you coming along?" And she's like, "No, General Leia wants me to check on these destroyer parts or whatever." And it's like, okay, well, they just wrote her out because boy did the fans hate her.
It's just crazy to me that you have something that's this big, culturally, and to do a new trilogy with it, and to not map out a story ahead of time.
Yeah.
That you can break into 3 different movies. Like, why?
And
I mean, do that?
Maybe they did, and they just, because of the backlash that episode 8 got, maybe they scrapped it and tried to course correct with 9. Maybe that's why it feels so sloppy.
And you can tell. You can tell.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with it overall. I mean, when I left the theater, I was just like, "Oh, I'm done." I'm glad that this anthology, like the Skywalker anthology, is over, because now I think that leaves the Star Wars universe open to like fresh concepts, new ideas, new storylines, new characters. I think that the Star Wars universe is still one that can be tapped for a lot of really great things, and I think The Mandalorian is a great example of that. And I'm assuming that show is very successful, and I'm hoping that the success of that show is influencing Disney to branch out and create some more creative stories within this universe.
I hope when they make this new trilogy, whenever it is in 2021, I think, that they get the same director for continuity and they map out the story beforehand and just general planning.
Yeah, Ryan, I think you make a good point there. I agree. I think that if they're going to do a new trilogy, they need to find a solid director that's able to handle it and does all three of them. I mean, if you, again, going back to The Mandalorian, if you look at that, Jon Favreau, I think he wrote every episode of that, and he was the showrunner. He controlled that whole thing. There were different directors, but only a handful of directors were involved with it. But that had a singular vision, that show, and I think that the movies need, if you're doing a trilogy and they're all connected and they're telling one overarching story, that it needs to have that same kind of singular vision. When you have these movies that are just wildly different, like both aesthetically and thematically, it doesn't work. It feels disconnected. It feels just not very good, sloppy.
No.
It's interesting to me that the comparison, looking at the Rotten Tomatoes page for this movie, that it has a 53% critics, 86% audience. So that's a pretty wide gap there.
Yeah.
I've seen worse, but man, I can't remember what movie that was. There was a movie that came out last year that had a crazy spread. I wish I remembered what movie that was, where like audiences were loving it. It had like 100% and critics were at like 12 or something. I can't remember what movie that was, but I don't know. What do you think of the Star Wars in general, Ryan? What do you think about what's the outlook? What's your outlook on Star Wars right now?
I hope they keep going, but like start fresh and like the first three, I want to feel like I felt when I saw them the first time.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of chasing that warm feeling, that warm Star Wars nostalgia.
I don't think you're gonna get it, guys.
I don't either.
Addicts.
I don't either. But again, The Mandalorian came pretty damn close for me.
And as far as the new ones, two people out of my head would be Taika Waititi, because he ended up basically on The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And
he directed the finale.
Would Quentin Tarantino be? Do you think Quentin Tarantino Star Wars would be alright?
No. Here's the thing, like, because Tarantino was supposedly working on a Star Trek movie. Like, that was going to be his 10th and final movie. It was going to be Star Trek, and it was going to be rated R and, have that Tarantino style to it. I think that whether he would never do Star Wars. Like, I don't think that would ever happen. But if he did Star Trek or Star Wars, I think that he's a director that can handle ensembles really well. And Star Wars is typically an ensemble piece. It's an important thing. But I think that Star Wars also works within genre tropes. You have like a lot of them are kind of inspired by samurai films. And I think that Tarantino also works well within genre tropes. So he would never be tapped to direct a Star Wars. I don't think Disney would ever want Tarantino to be in their catalog, but
I never thought about that.
But I think if he did, he'd probably kill it. I don't know. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would go so far as kill it, because I don't know if that's really a good fit. Like, I just can't see that, but I would have to say that I'm 99.9% sure that it would be better than Rise of Skywalker.
I think
that.
I think that's an incredibly safe bet. I mean, pretty much, you get any like I don't know. I think Taika Waititi would probably do a really great job with it too. If they got anybody, I would imagine Jon Favreau would be in the running for sure, because Favreau seems to be a darling of Disney. You know, he did all those live action Disney movies, and he also did The Mandalorian. So I think it's probably a safe bet that Favreau is going to be doing a Star Wars movie. Maybe not though. Maybe he did The Mandalorian. That's all he needed to be satisfied.
I would like to see a one-off movie that he, like Star Wars movie that he does. Like Rogue One is a one-off.
I hope they don't do another trilogy. I'd like to see more one-off movies for a while before another trilogy, because I think I prefer the one-off stories. And that was one of the things I liked about The Mandalorian, is like each episode was its own standalone thing. I liked that.
Plus, you can watch them right in a row, like they come out on a weekly basis. So you're not waiting forever to remember everything that happened.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on Rise of Skywalker before we close it out?
Do I have to give it a score?
Oh, yeah. I guess we do have to give it a score. All right. Ryan, what do you give Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker? 7 out of 10.
Oh, I was going to say 6, but...
You were I already told you, the donations are locked in.
I would say somewhere between a 6 and a 7.
I already told you, we locked it in. We're done with the donations, so you're not getting any more money out of us here.
I mean, this is 6 and 7. I mean, you didn't. What was positive for you about this?
The fact that it was Star Wars.
So Star Wars, just being Star Wars, just the fact that it is Star Wars, is worth at least 6 points?
5.
Okay, so as long as it's Star Wars, it's an automatic 5. Wow.
Unless it's one of the first 3.
The prequels,
yeah.
And I would assume that like the Ewok Adventure or the Star Wars Holiday Special,
they don't count.
would also not be part of that. The Ewok Adventure. Okay, I'm kind of speechless with that score, but we'll go with it. It's locked in. All right.
Incredible.
Any final thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker before we close it out?
No.
No? All right.
Same director. I know no one from the Star Wars listening to this.
You're saying, you're reiterating for the next trilogy, same director, all 3.
Yes.
Okay. All right. What do you have in mind for next time we meet? What genre are you feeling? Action. Nice. All right. We'll have an action one lined up for you. I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your picks for Ryan to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet, @FilmPulseKevin, and @MyLegsDon'tWork. If you have a minute, consider giving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. For Kevin Rakestraw and Ryan Holes, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you later.
See ya.